Hey book nerds, what's up? I'm back. It is February 2nd. I'm so excited to be back. I was planning to film these videos before the end of January, but I had a work trip last week and got sick. So filming them a little bit later. 'Tis the season, am I right? So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We are going to do the January recap video and I'm super excited. I read a lot of bangers in the month of January. So let's dive right on into all of them. All right, so I'm gonna go in order. I'll tell you if I listened to it. I will tell you how long it took me. I will give you my rating and I will tell you if I think it is worth the read or not. Keep in mind, most of them I'm probably gonna say yes. So from the start, the first book I finished is None of This Is True. I listened to it over the course of a couple of days and I ended up giving it a 4.75 stars. This one was phenomenal. This is the first Lisa Jewell book that I have ever actually read and I would definitely recommend it if you were into the thriller side of things. So I have to find somewhere to put these. Put it next to me. All right. So following that, I ended up finishing The Coworker. I finished it in over the course of a couple of days. Listened to it on Libby, and I'm giving it a 4.0 stars. Definitely love it. Freida McFadden. I've loved generally all of her books. I think the only one I was not a fan of was One by One, and I ended up DNFing it. I have a hard time with like the cheating trope. Not a fan, and that one seemed to be a prevalent theme. If you think I'm completely wrong and I should give it a second chance, let me know in the comments below. But Freida McFadden is always a winner in my book. So read The Coworker. I definitely think everyone should read it. If you're new to fantasy, if you're new to thriller, definitely check out Freida McFadden's books. All right. And then I also ended up finishing Love Letters to a Serial Killer. So this one, as well as The Coworker, and then there's another book I'm going to mention, I had originally DNF'd it. And I think it was just, I don't know why, but I still have a regret about it, so I ended up listening to them. Obviously, I ended up loving The Coworker. And then this one, I ended up giving a solid 3 stars. I listened to it over a couple of days. I listened to it over the course of 3 days. And it was good. It was 3 stars. It was less, like, thriller-y and more, like, rom-com with, like, mystery twists. So it was definitely good. I would probably say it's like a maybe. If you need something super lighthearted that's easy to read, this one was very easy to read, very lighthearted. It wasn't bad, but it's also one of those where this is one where you'd have to like be in the mood for something like this to read it. Okay. Now, this one, Where the Crawdads Sing. So this one is very personal because it's basically the set in my backyard because I'm from the Carolinas and so I'm very familiar with this part of North Carolina. I've gone on vacations there. I have friends there, all that. This one definitely hit close to home. It was amazing. I listened to it over the course of 3 days. I ended up giving it 4.75 stars. I believe that in 30 years, this is going to be deemed a classic that every kid's going to have to read in high school. It is phenomenal. I loved it so much. The ending, super twisty. Never saw that one coming. And then I made the mistake of watching the movie after the fact, and that was disappointing. So, if you've watched the movie and loved it, you'll love the book even more. I was talking to my friends who's only watched the movie, and I was like, yeah, I would have loved the movie if I hadn't have read the book first. So, 10 out of 10 recommend this book. 4.75. You will learn I don't give 5 stars very often. There's a couple that I had, but this one, so good. So good. It reminds me similar of like how The Notebook kind of like goes back and forth in time frames. Was it the Notebook? Like, I don't remember if it was the Notebook or not, but it kind of goes back and forth on the time frames. So it's like what happened in the past that led them to where they are now, and what's going on in the trial. Which the fact that there's a trial is not a spoiler for anything. So yeah, it's such a good book. Such a good book. All right. Then the third book I originally DNF'd and then went right on back to, and I'm happy I did. I ended up pre-ordering the second book, is The Wren in the Holly Library. I ended up reading it over the course of 3 days. I listened to it. I ended up giving it a 4.25. So, one, the end papers, beautiful. Edges, beautiful. So, enough said about that. But this one was just so good. And the ending got me. Would definitely recommend this if you are interested in a post-apocalyptic fantasy style world. So, I'm super excited for the sequel to come out. It's amazing. It's such a good book. So happy I ended up actually following through with this one. All right. Moving right along. I need to take a water break. My throat is still kind of iffy from being sick. Okay. So next up is A Shadow Crown. This is the second book in the Halfling Saga series. So I've read the first 3 and I have the 4th one slated to read probably this week. But so this is the second one. I gave it a 3.75 stars and I listened to it over the course of a day. Let me preface, when I listen to books, I typically listen to them on no less than 1.5, but usually closer to 2 speed, which is how I can listen to them so fast. But this one, it was a good book. It's not my favorite out of the series. I think A Broken Blade really set the bar high for me. And so that's kind of what I've been comparing everything to. So it was not my favorite. Honestly, I think the third one might have ended up being my favorite. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was. But this one, really good. Would definitely recommend you to read it if you liked A Broken Blade. Keep on going in the series. Okay, then I listened to The Woman in the Window. So I read End of Story by AJ Finn last year and loved it. I was obsessed, and my ADHD hyperfixation is 100% part of that. So hyperfixated on that one. Ended up reading this one. I listened to it. It took me a couple of days. I ended up giving it a 3.75. I was not as into it as I was End of Story, but it was so phenomenal. The ending I did not see coming. It was definitely a fantastic book. I didn't even bother re-upping my Netflix account to watch the movie just because every time I've tried to do that, where I read the book and then watch the movie, I've been disappointed by the movie. So I'd rather not waste my time. I like books better. So never thought I would be the one to say that I would rather read than watch books or watch TV and watch movies. So most of my content that I watch on YouTube now is bookish content. My husband's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you watch other men play video games while you play video games. I don't want to hear it. So yeah, this one was good. Would definitely recommend. AJ Finn is a phenomenal writer and is very good at what he does. All right, now moving on to Bookshops and Bone Dust. After I read this one, I found out it was a prequel, and so Legends and Lattes technically came out before it. But I ended up listening to this one first. I listened to it over the course of 2 days. Ended up giving it 3.75. It was just one of those like warm hugs. That's like, it's got the fantasy, but like in like some action, but it's just like nice and cozy. And like this is one of those books that if you're just gonna physically read it and you have a long weekend away, that you just want to sit with a cup of hot cocoa, a hot toddy, cup of coffee in the morning, bundled up in the mountains when it's all nice and chilly, and devour this book. It was so good. It was so cute. I loved listening to it. And also, I really like how pretty it is on the inside. So pretty. That's the theme for me, is I really like the pretty stuff in books. Like, love the prettiness. So, it was definitely an easy listen. Super nice and cozy. I would definitely recommend. All right. Last on this part of the stack, this was a 2-stack month. Again, I read 19 books. You have Bloodguard by C.C. Robson. So I ended up listening to this one over the course of 3 days? Yeah, 3 days. Gave it a 4-star. It was phenomenal. Look at the pretty inside. Love a good, pretty inside. This one, I almost DNF'd it. I was not super into it at the beginning, but after getting a good bit into it, I was like, okay, this one is actually really good. I like the different POVs that are in it. I like the challenges. I thought this book was just overall amazing by the end of it. So would definitely recommend. I think there's going to be a second one. I'm not 100% sure. I hope so. But at the same time, this one kind of ended in a spot where there could be a sequel, there could not. It had a happy ending for the main love interests. But, yeah. And that's the only spoiler-ish thing I will say. And I shouldn't say happy, because it's gladiators. Gladiators don't usually have happy. Yeah. This was phenomenal. I would definitely recommend reading it. Okay. Next, we have The Perfect Son by Frida McFadden. 4.75. I listened to it in a day. Read it. I promise. The ending got me. I was like, there's no way it can actually be the son. Like, why? Like, he can't be involved at all. Yeah. But then I thought it could be someone else. And then I thought, well, no, maybe it's this character. Well, maybe it's this character. And I'm not telling you who actually did it. I'm going to let you figure that out on your own. So, you know, all families have secrets, but some secrets are deadly. And this book was amazing. Definitely recommend. This one is up there with Never Lie and The Locked Door, which are 2 of my favorite. The Never Lie is probably my favorite. And then Locked Door, and then probably this one, and then The Inmate. The Inmate's also up there. So this is definitely my top of Frida McFadden books. Definitely recommend. I have a couple of Frida McFaddens that I'm planning to read at some point this year. I do not have them for February, though, but definitely recommend. Okay. Now we get to a 5-star read. Air Fire by SJM. 5 stars. It did take me a couple of weeks because I physically read this one. All the other ones before this I had listened to. This one I physically read. It took me a couple of weeks. And it was amazing. If you're not reading the Throne of Glass series or have not read the Throne of Glass series, what are you doing? Read it. I promise. I was a hater, didn't understand. Then I read ACOTAR and I was like, okay, yeah, these are good books. Like, but I also knew the emotional damage that's going to come from the series. I'm not prepared for it. But this one, so good. As I'm recording this, I'm actually going to probably start the next book in the series tonight. And I'm super excited about it. I took a break to read Onyx Storm, and I finished that today. So, here we are. It is currently February 2nd. So, I have done a little bit of reading already this month. But Air Fire, phenomenal. Recommend. Everyone needs to read it. Okay. Ugh. Time for a little sippy sip. We need some cheap sparkling water. Costco brand. It's basically LaCroix. It's tasty. Okay. So the next book I listened to was Realm Breaker. I listened to it over the course of... can I do this? Nope. I listened to it over the course of 3 days. I ranked it 4 stars. So this was a fantastic fantasy series. Haven't gotten super into any romance, but I can tell that there might be some love interests peeking up eventually. But just as a fantasy book alone, this was amazing. I usually love a little bit of a romance bit in there. I was perfectly fine without it because this book was so good and so addicting. And I'm so excited to see what happens because I'm going to end up finishing the 3rd book this month. I'm super excited. So this one, 10 out of 10. Recommend it. 4 stars. If you can't tell, I'm pretty strict on my star getting scores. So definitely recommend this one. So following Blade Breaker. A lot of the books I listen to are written from Libby, so I tend to listen to them in the order of which they're going to end up being due, so I have a little bit of extra time with them. Versus keeping the series together, because a lot of times I have to put them on hold and the next book isn't always together, hence why there's a little bit of disjointedness. But then after Realm Breaker, I ended up reading the 3rd book in the Halfling Saga, A Vicious Game. 4.75 stars. I listened to it over the course of 2 days. This is probably my favorite book so far in the series. The plot twist at the end, last thing I expected. Nope. Mind blowing. This book is so good. Love it so much that I am so excited. I have A Study in Drowning to listen to, and then An Honored Vow, which is the next book after this. And I am so excited. So excited. Definitely recommend this entire series. It is amazing. Okay, so after that one, I physically read a book called William. It's just a short little novel. It's by Mason Coyley. I don't know how to say it. I don't want to butcher it because I feel bad. Physically read this one over the course of 3 days. It is very short, very good. I gave it 4.75 stars. I don't normally like the horror side of books. I don't really like horror movies. That's just not me. I'm not super into spookiness, not super into Halloween. That's just not my vibe. I'm definitely a golden retriever. I like Christmas and cozy and sparkles. I'm not normally dark and messing with your mind. But this book was amazing. And if he came out with the 2nd one, I wouldn't be surprised. If he already has, I need it because William was phenomenal. And I did not expect the ending the way it happened. I was shocked. It was so good. Okay. Then I read the 2nd book in a series called A Whisper in the Wall. A Door in the Dark is the 1st one. That book was amazing. It's like witchy, magical realism, fantasy elements meet whodunit. And then this gets into more like the political side of that same world. I listened to it over the course of 2 days, 4.75 stars. It is phenomenal. I have pre-ordered the 2nd book, or the 3rd book. This is the 2nd book. I pre-ordered the 3rd book. It's going to get delivered in February, and it's definitely up on my list to read. It's not on my list to read in February, though. Probably more of a March book, just because of everything else I have planned in February. So, A Whisper in the Walls, phenomenal. Definitely recommend. Okay, so after A Whisper in the Walls, I read Blade Breaker. Blade Breaker, gave it 4 stars. I listened to it over the course of 4 days? 4 days, 4 stars. Definitely amazing. So good. Answered some of the questions from Realm Breaker, but also has left me with some questions that I hope I get answered in Fate Breaker. So, this one was also incredible. This entire series, I have high hopes for the final one. Now I understand why Victoria Aveyard is considered the Queen of Fantasy, and I might end up having to give Red Queen a shot. I wasn't vibing with it, but I might have to go back for it. Because this one is amazing. Okay. So after Blade Breaker, I read the 2nd book And then I think it's going to be a trilogy. I read Bringer of Dust. The first one is Ordinary Monsters. So this one I gave a 3.25 stars. We need a water break. Okay. I listened to it over the course of 7 days. It was a little bit harder to get through. It's 3.25 stars. I am not sure if I am going to end up getting the third book. After Ordinary Monsters, it definitely excited me to get this one. But it is hard to get through. It is very intense and like in depth with the historical side of everything, because this is like magical realism meets historical fiction. It felt kind of disjointed with the different fantasy POVs, and it's not my favorite series. If you loved Ordinary Monsters, I think you'll love Bringer of Dust. I am 50. I kind of want to get the third book just to see how it all ends, because this did end on, the epilogue does have a pretty big cliffhanger in it. So I do kind of want to get the third book. I'm not 100% sure yet, though. TBD on that one. Okay. All right. So we're almost done. So after Bringer of Dust, I listened to Lightlark by Alex Aster. 4.75 stars. I listened to it over the course of like 2 or 3 days. Amazing. I had mixed feelings on if I was going to like it going again, because I've heard both really high praises and also people that are like not a fan, and both opinions from people I respect. I was devouring this book. Jaw meat floor, so good. So good. If Hunger Games met adult, like, yeah. Definitely has some Hunger Gamey vibes to it, but I like it better than Hunger Games. Because I also like how you get like the political side of it, but then you also get the magic. I don't know. You get the romance. I don't know what team I'm on for Grimm and Aura, because they have both kind of pissed me off. But amazing book. Nightbane and Skyshader are on my list for February. So good. 10 out of 10 recommend. So good. Okay. So, my final book that I finished in January was Legends and Lattes, which was the first book, because considering Bookshops and Bone Dust was the prequel. And I gave this one a 3.5. Listened to it in a day. Again, warm, cozy, hug. Loved it. So cute. Bundle up. Read it. It's amazing. Again, pretty insides. Yeah. So good. Loved it. So, let's see. What would be my top books, though, of January? So, one of my top books, these are in no particular order, A Vicious Game. Of course, there are 2 books before this you would need to read to get to this one. Definitely recommend this entire series. The Halfling Saga is amazing. The Realmbreaker series, definitely recommend. That's another top one. The Throne of Glass series, because of course I read Air Fire in January, definitely recommend. 10 out of 10. Love that one. And then Lightlark. You should definitely read Lightlark. Definitely feel that one. And then pretty much anything Frida McFadden is a win. So these are kind of the books that I read all January and what I spent most of my free time doing. And yeah. If you have any thoughts on the books, be respectful, of course, but drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your feedback. And yeah, January was a phenomenal reading month. When I started the year, my goal was to read 65 books this year. And I was like, oh, I'll just up it to 100. And then I did the math. I am on track to read over 200 books this year. So that is my new goal, is to read 200 books. So, yeah. This is my January recap. This is also my monthly update of where my goals are. And I am super excited to keep reading with all my fellow book nerds. I love you all. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I cannot wait to see you all in my next video. Thanks. Have a fabulous rest of your day.